I think work-life balance is up to each person to figure out what works for them. I love marketing, and I think marketing today is very much a blending of science and art together. And I think the best marketing leaders can actually straddle between those two. And so I've been doing that. We've done a series of videos around different topics of thought leadership where we've interviewed sort of subject matter experts and packaged them in a very creative way. They're not selling our product. They're educating you about topics of interest to those various personas. And I think the packaging and the content there has been a nice creative expression of sort of what we want to stand for in the market, which is adding value to the market that we serve. Be that, although, boy, those are tough options. I may have to take a drink on that one anyway.
In this episode, I'm talking to Randy Littleson, CMO of SalesLoft, a company that helps large enterprise develop sales systems. They have over 5,000 customers, including Google, 3M, IBM, Square, Shopify, and more. According to online sources, they're doing over $200 million in annual revenue. We're going to cover many things. Number one, their two main marketing expenses: digital ads and face-to-face marketing, like events and on-site visits. I'm going to try to figure out the exact breakdown of both of these categories. Number two, his philosophy on balancing the art and science of marketing, i.e. being creative but also analyzing the data. And number three, of course, I'm going to try to figure out spicy things like how much money he actually makes as a CMO and many more. And every time he can't answer a question, he is going to take a shot of red wine and I am going to take a shot of whiskey. The things we do for marketing. Wish me luck, Martians. Hello, Martians. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, we have a very interesting company because I am currently very deep into the sales world of things. We have the CMO of a company called SalesLoft, Randy Littleson. SalesLoft, basically, brief introduction, they're a sales engagement platform, and they basically use AI to help enterprise teams, big companies, prioritize and take action on what matters most, from first touch all the way to upsale, all the way to renewal. They have over 5,000 customers, big companies like Google, 3M, IBM, etc. So really excited for this conversation. Randy, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. Where are you calling from today?
So I actually live in the mountains of North Carolina. Unfortunately, it's the area that just had the hurricane hit about a month ago.
Oh, no.
So there's a lot of people that are struggling here, but slowly but surely starting to come back. It's beautiful country, beautiful time of year. So North Carolina.
Are you? Did anything happen to your house or anyone that you know, like in your family or immediate family or whatever?
Yeah, I would describe us as in the inconvenience category. We did have two very large trees fall and hit our house, but only did cosmetic damage.
Wow.
The road going into town, half of it washed away down the side of the mountain, but we're very lucky. We were inconvenienced. There are people that had their houses literally washed away down the river. Roads are gone. Electricity is out.
I saw some of the photos. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad for the people here. So, but slowly but surely starting to come back.
Wow. So are you just at the house working most of the time, or are you still traveling into the office these last couple of weeks?
It's been a little bit of both. So I definitely am remote. Our headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay. Atlanta.
Like most software companies that get to a certain scale and size, that we're global. I was actually just in London last week. I lost track of time there.
Yeah.
So we've been doing some regional conferences. We did New York, Austin. We did London. We did Chicago back in the summer. So I was just in Austin and London. So I will either go to our office in Atlanta or have gone to some of these conferences and things like that. So about every other or every third week I'm on the road. Otherwise, I work from home.
Wow. Okay. So you travel quite a bit. Excited to talk a little bit learn about you, about SalesLoft, the company, and then just overall, we're going to learn about marketing for most of the show. But today's episode is very special. We usually do, as our team told you, we usually do shots of hot sauce on this show, but we're not doing that today. Instead, we're gonna change things up, and we're gonna try alcohol on this show. This is only the second episode that we've ever done alcohol. The very first episode was with Microsoft, an executive at Microsoft. Ilya, if you're watching this, shout out to you, Ilya. But we're going to try alcohol today. What do you have? What is your weapon of choice today for? I have something special planned, but I want to see yours first.
Yeah, I'm not a big hot sauce person, so I would prefer the alcohol. So I've got some red wine here. And to kick things off, I did bring one shot that I'll do to start.
Okay.
But I figured if I did all shots, I probably wouldn't make it through this, let alone the rest of the day. So pace myself and make sure that I have a productive work day as well.
Exactly. Well, for me, it's late at night for me. I'm in Seoul, South Korea, so I'm gonna go sleep after this. So I'll need an extra few shots. So I got a bottle of soju here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna kick things off with, and I know our team is always wanting me to kick things up a notch, so we're gonna do that, and I'll start things off with that. Ooh, no, that's not good. Okay, I'm gonna start things off with a shot of soju.
You have the benefit of going straight to sleep afterwards. That's good.
I know. I don't know how much is too much. I'm gonna do a small one first. We'll see. I've never drank out of this cup before, so all right. Cheers, Randy.
Cheers.
Let's see what we have in store for us.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. That'll wake you up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that woke me up as well. So we're all ready to go. Before we get started, I usually like to kind of learn about each other, kind of like personally. I know you're currently at home and you travel a lot, but do you have any hobbies or anything? Like what do you do for fun outside of work?
Yeah, I think the thing that I absolutely love about living here is getting to walk or hike in the mountains. So just last weekend, it's fall here, so the leaves are changing, and that took about a 5-mile round trip hike to a former fire tower, actually, that they used to sort of look around to see if there were forest fires in that, and went up there. Just gorgeous in that. So.
Wow.
Especially during the summer or the warmer weather and that, I like to go out in the mornings and walk up and down in our development here, get some good elevation, get work up a sweat, and get to enjoy the beauty of the natural surroundings that we have. So that's probably my number one thing that I love to do.
Wow. Okay, cool. So you're a hiker. Any sports outside of hiking?
Avid sports growing up in that, but at this
Yeah.
age in that, I'm more of a spectator in that. So,
A spectator?
love college sports, love football, love hockey.
Okay.
Been watching a little bit of the World Series going on. So pretty much any sport.
Yeah, you guys have good teams. Hurricanes, the Carolina Hurricanes, you guys are doing quite well.
So I grew up in
Hockey.
the Michigan area, so I'm actually a Detroit Red Wing fan, and then I lived in
Even
Illinois
better.
the Chicago area for about 30 years. So my second teams would be the Chicago teams, and now, yes, I'm starting to pay attention to the Carolina teams as well.
To the
So
Canes. Yeah.
I get to pick the ones that are doing better and pay more attention to them.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then in terms of like working hours or something, we always, there's a huge push, especially the newer generations, millennials and Gen Zs, always talking about work-life balance. Do you feel you have pretty good work-life balance, or how do you keep your work-life balance?
I do for me, but of course, what's good for me may not be good for everybody else. So
That's true.
I'm a morning person, so I tend to get up very early. So it's not uncommon for me to be looking at email 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't expect others to do that, but that works for me. I got a colleague I worked with a couple of years, and she is a very late person, so that works for her. So I think work-life balance is up to each person to figure out what works for them. I work from home a lot, so my ability to walk up here to my office and then walk away from it, I don't have a problem with that, but that's not for everybody. So
like how many hours would you say on average are you working per week?
It obviously varies per day, but it's pretty common that I'm working from about 6 to 5 or 6 each day. And I do work on the weekends, but not it. I view it as more relaxing work. It's getting caught up on things. It may be reading things that I want some dedicated time, a little harder to do during the week. So I'll get up early in the morning. My wife gets up a little bit later. I'll just come up here and I may have the TV on listening to like Sports Center, watching, the
Sports Center,
sports highlights and getting caught up on reading and learning about new things. So for me, that's not stressful work stuff for me. So I don't have a problem with it, but it's not for everybody, but that works for me.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about this. We have to have a strategy. I'm trying to convince my team to work on the weekends too. So let's we'll come up with some kind of strategy.
I never ask people to work on the weekend. I should say it's very rare. There are times, right? I mean, we work for a software company. It is a very competitive, fast-moving, high-paced environment. There are times where you may need to do something on the weekend because it's time critical. That's an exception.
Yeah,
that is pretty rare. That is not an expectation on a regular basis. You could choose to do something different, but we don't make that the norm.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's give a little bit of love to the company. We'll switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the company, SalesLoft. I've kind of did a little bit of digging into the background, but I wanted to ask the question. It might be a little bit of a spicy question, but I'm not sure what's shareable. I like to try to figure out how large the company is. Try to get things kickstarted. I did a little bit of research. Looks like you guys are around like $200, $500 million in revenue. As a CMO, anything you can divulge for us today?
Well, you're directionally correct. I'll leave it at that, right? We're in the ballpark. And as you said earlier, right, we're fortunate that we've got about 5,000 customers as well. And those span, right? They're across geographies. They're across segments. We have what we call commercial, the smaller companies, all the way up to, very, very large companies as well. You named a couple. So I'll say you're directionally there.
Can you blink once if it's 500 mil?
I'll take a little glass of wine.
All right. The team is ready. Okay, I'm gonna pour some. Oh God! All right.
You better pace yourself.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to sleep after this.
That's a big swig. You are going to sleep.
Yeah. Honestly, it's nicer than hot sauce. It goes down a lot smoother than hot sauce does. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and you don't break out in a sweat either, so that's good.
I mean, let's see a couple more of these. You gotta help me out, Randy. You gotta answer some of these hot questions. I don't know who's coming up with these questions. Okay. All right. So it's a big company. It's 200 to 500 mil, something around that range. So definitely in the, I guess that would be considered 9 figures, right? 9 figures in revenue. So quite large. Now curious, like your personal background here. You started in marketing quite a long time. Like what sparked your what personally got you passionate about marketing in the beginning? Like what was it about marketing?
Yeah, if you go all the way back, this, like you said, I've been doing this for a long time. I didn't start off in marketing. I actually started off in the early days. I got a degree in computer science.
Oh, yes.
So I did ultimately go back and get an MBA, but I didn't concentrate in marketing, but I obviously took some marketing. So most of my experience in marketing, I've learned along the way over many, many, many years in that. But I started off in the early days, probably one of the more formative jobs, I was a sales engineer. So I was in front of accounts and partners in that, educating them on our offerings. I worked for a company called Novell back in the early days of networking computers within businesses and that. From that led me into product management because I was out there representing products and wanted to understand, well, who's making the decisions about what products we're going to build? So I made that switch. And in the companies that I was in early on, product management reported into marketing. So that's how I got into marketing. And I just really found that was my sweet spot. That's what I really, really loved because it combined a lot of things, especially as marketing has evolved over the last couple of decades in that it's become much more quantifiable. And so the blending of sort of the science and the art in those sort of different halves of your brain and those different skill sets in that I love about marketing. And I think marketing today is very much a blending of science and art together. And I think the best marketing leaders can actually straddle between those two. And so I've been doing that now for a long time.
I love how you say that. I feel we talk about this all the time with the guests. I feel like maybe marketing before we had all this data, before we lived in a world of data, marketing was so heavily towards the creative end of the spectrum. And now we have so much data that it's all about data. But true successful and world-class marketing requires a blend of both creative and data. How do you personally teach your team, or even from a personal standpoint, like how do you balance that out? How do you get your team to still be creative when there's so much data to be looking at every single day?
No, it's well informed. It's exactly right. It is a blend. We do have more data than we've ever had, but we still don't have perfect data.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I haven't worked for a company yet that has perfect data, and I don't talk to too many other people that say, "Oh, our data's perfect. We've got perfect visibility and clarity and everything else." Right?
Yeah.
Well, one, you have to make some decisions that are not based on perfect data. That is the world that we live in and the reality of that. The other side of it, though, is that there is a need for creative even within the data, right? The data can tell you that this message is working better than this message. The data can tell you that this program is being more impactful to generate pipeline and bookings and revenue than other tactics that you're doing. But within all execution, you've got to have creative in there as a way to express what your brand is about, as well as to appeal to the audience, right? And understanding your audience and sort of what their preferences are and the way they think, and that's where the creative comes in. So you've got to leave room within the process of execution to be informed by data, but to give room to breathe, let that creative side come out, and it's got to be baked into your process and the way that you operate.
Any examples recently? Because B2B marketing, especially, every single industry is competitive, but you're fighting in an industry with some of the giants. Like, B2B enterprise space is huge. Any kind of creative or like recent, at least in the last 12 months, campaigns that you felt that were really creative that did really well?
Well, we're working on some right now, right? We've introduced more of an integrated campaign framework within our organization. And so that's around a theme or a solution to a business problem and a series of tactics that get executed over a period of time. And so how we execute those, whether it be a webinar or a piece of content or whatever, we're trying to bake creativity into the individual piece parts in that. I'll tell you another area that we've been really leaning into where I think our creativity's really shined is around thought leadership. I am a passionate believer for B2B companies to be really, really leaning into thought leadership. And one of the reasons why I believe it's so important is because I think buyers are predisposed to assume that a vendor is just trying to sell you something. And I think thought leadership done well, and I define thought leadership content as something that adds value to the audience, whether they buy from you or not. It is thought-provoking. It challenges thinking. It gives new ideas and that. If you can accomplish that, you start to earn trust with the audience, right? That I'm not just there to sell you something. I actually add value to the conversation, and I'm thought-provoking. We've done a series of videos with internal people. Now we're turning to more external people around different topics of thought leadership, from the sales side, from the customer service side, from the revenue operations side, where we've interviewed sort of subject matter experts and packaged them in a very creative way. And then we share those videos. We put them on YouTube. We put them on our site. We use social to distribute those. And they're all thought leadership in nature. They're not selling our product. They're educating you about topics of interest to those various personas. And I think the packaging and the content there has been a nice creative expression of sort of what we want to stand for in the market, which is adding value to the market that we serve.
Yeah. Would love to dive into that. I've been very passionate about thought leadership as well. I've been on a LinkedIn journey for the last year and a half, 2 years, talking about the power of community. And so I love that. And I see all around me, communities of all different types and sizes growing around me, as I'm on this thought leadership journey. And I'd love to nerd out, about that, in a little bit. You're also known to be sharing, and our team did a little bit of digging. You're known to be sharing tips and tools on productivity on Twitter. Are there any, and obviously SalesLoft is all about is all about personal hacks for how to help teams prioritize their work. But do you have any personal hacks or tools that you use to prioritize your own work from a personal standpoint?
Yeah. Obviously making sure that what I'm spending my time on is aligned to our goals. And our goals need to be aligned with the sales goals, right? But that's a separate topic. We can get into goals, but I think being aligned to those goals and the objectives that we have and making sure that that's where we're prioritizing our time. I've learned over the years, I view sort of how you prioritize your time, sort of how you save money at home, right? I think it's very true that if you are trying to save to buy a car, to buy a house, to go on a vacation, whatever it is, if your savings in your mindset is, I've got all these expenses and then what's left over, you'll never have anything left over. You have to invert the way you think about it and set a goal and set some money aside and then adjust the rest of what you do in order to accomplish that goal. I think the same thing is true in how exactly. If you want to dedicate time to a specific task, you need to prioritize and set time aside to do that, because otherwise everything else will crowd it out. There's so much inertia, so much energy, so much stuff going on. So one of the tips that I tell people all the time is go 2 weeks out on your calendar. And I say 2 weeks as a rough idea, because if you try to do it tomorrow, your calendar's already booked. But if you go 2 weeks out on your calendar, and let's say you're a morning person like I am, and I want to dedicate 2 hours a week to focus on a specific priority that I need to get done, I go block that time on my calendar starting 2 weeks out. And let's say I need to do it over the next month, continuing on for the next month. I prioritize the savings first and then let other things fill in around it. If I instead say that I'm going to let my day-to-day task happen in the leftover time, it'll never happen. There won't be leftover time. So prioritizing based on your objectives, working out and blocking that time on your calendar as your priority to do, and then don't let things get booked over top of it. Don't cancel it. That's a good thing that you can do in terms of staying focused on your objectives that really matter, that tied to outcomes that you're trying to achieve, and invest in that time first, because if you don't, there won't be any time to do it.
Yeah, and typically I tell my team, like, have one major priority a day, because if you have 3 priorities that day, you have no priorities. Right? Just have one major priority, get that done first, and then you can focus on the other one. By the way, I think my light just suddenly decided to not work.
I'll tell you another thing that I think is important too. I've seen this over the years, right? Is you have a bigger project. Maybe you're working on your website, for example, and you want to do an overhaul of your website. That can be a huge project. And if you take it as one total project, that could take months. And as you're working on it, things can keep changing. And the longer the project is, the more risk it is to change, which can further prolong you may never get done with this thing. The more you take those big projects and break it into smaller projects so that you can have a sense of accomplishment, and instead of the website project being one big thing that, let's say, takes you 4 months, maybe it's 4 1-month projects that you do instead. And you can have a sense of accomplishment, you can incrementally improve things, and you can focus more narrowly on something that the team can rally behind and get done. So I don't see people consistently enough taking big projects and breaking them down into phases that they can tackle. Easier to think about, easier to plan, easier to get across the finish line, so you have a sense of accomplishment, momentum to get on to the next phase and the next phase and the next.
I absolutely agree, which is why we're going to move on to a segment of the show that I absolutely love. It's called This or That, because prioritization, you got to have to choose one thing or another, right? So this segment is a fun little segment. Basically, I have 5 different questions for you. A few of them will be more spicy than others. I'll ask you a question, and then you just have to choose this or that really quick. And if you can't answer, you take another shot. All right, pretty simple. Okay, so the first one is pretty simple. You prefer to do a bunch of emails, endless email chains, or endless Zoom calls?
Emails.
Nice. Forget your laptop at home or forget your cell phone at home?
Oh, laptop.
Spicy food or sweet desserts?
Oh, well, you probably already know this. The sweet desserts any day of the week.
Oh, yeah. Have a personal assistant who's always late or someone who's always on time but never listens?
Ooh.
This one's a hard one.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Probably, I'm sort of anal retentive about being on time, so maybe that. Although, boy, those are tough options. I may have to take a drink on that one anyway.
Okay. Wow. Okay, I'll drink with you.
Oh, I'll take a small one there. Yeah, yeah, those are two tough options.
Put a little too much on this one. Thank goodness the light is not working because I think my face is going to start turning in a few seconds. We actually had a harder question for you, which the team is probably laughing at this one because they can see that question, but I'm going to skip it in case we need another tough question. Okay, we're going to move on to just talking about marketing, about the company, and then the current marketing landscape. We're basically going to nerd out about marketing for the next 15 minutes or so. I guess first off, let's talk about the company. SalesLoft. How do you guys make money? What are your revenue streams? Let's talk about that first, and then we'll dive into the marketing channels that you use to target your ICPs or your ideal customers.
Yeah, so we're a SaaS software company, right? So cloud provider of software. So our main stream of revenue is software. We license software. Related to that is we help customers implement, we train them on it. So we've got some services and support related as well. But the primary revenue stream is the licensing of software.
Okay. I think the light is working now. Okay, so license software, and then your main ICPs. I know you guys have 5,000 customers, and we've named some of the larger ones, but who are your main customers? Are they only the Fortune 1000 or 2000s, or is it a mix of SMBs and also small startups and also large companies? Or who are your primary audience?
It is. So it spans what we call the commercial accounts, which are smaller, through the mid-market all the way up, as you said, some very, very large enterprises. So we have teams that are dedicated on the different segments based on the size of accounts and that. Any company that has a B2B go-to-market selling organization, so business to business, go-to-market functions, that's who we can help. And it does span sort of up and down the markets and across different verticals as well. So different segments, commercial accounts, mid-market, all the way up to enterprise, as well as across different industries. So other tech companies, device manufacturers, life sciences, financial services. So it spans across industries. If you have a B2B go-to-market selling motion, we can add value to your organization.
Is there a certain industry that uses your software more than other industries, or is it very agnostic and it just spans all across? Or is there one dominant one?
It's pretty agnostic. Not uncommon that sales tech, MarTech software, and that we all started with the early adopters tend to be other SaaS software tech companies and that. So, but the value prop is not exclusive to them. It just happened to be where we got started. But today it's quite agnostic, diversified across multiple industries, and we continue to see a lot of growth across those various industries that I mentioned before.
Okay, so I guess industry agnostic, but maybe let's talk to me about the different sizes of the companies. So from small companies to medium-sized companies, and then to the large enterprise companies. Maybe in each one of these buckets, we'll start with the smaller companies. What are the top 1 or 2 marketing channels that you use to reach these prospective customers and to try to sell them on the services?
I can generally say as you go from the smaller up to the larger, the mix of things are similar, but the weighting of where they contribute differs, right? At the lower end of the market, you get a higher digital concentration, right? Tends to be smaller buying teams, tends to be smaller sales cycles, tends to be a higher relative percentage throughout their entire buying journey of self-service, just because they don't have the resources and the time and everything else. As you move up market, and it's a spectrum, right? Things don't binary switch; they just sort of shift
Right.
a little more.
Right.
You tend to get more of the face-to-face interactions. That does not mean that they won't engage in digital channels. Of course they will, but as a percentage of all the interactions with them across the bigger buying committee, across a longer buying cycle, face-to-face, human-to-human interactions become bigger. That could be an event. That could be an on-site visit, more Zoom calls, right? So there's a variety of things that we can do in that regard. So that's sort of the way I would describe it, right? A mix of digital interactions, human-to-human, face-to-face interactions, the relative weighting of those shifts, low end of the market, high end of the market.
If you were to give just a percentage, I know a lot of people listening today we have a large percentage of people listening that are in the enterprise, and they're probably in senior positions as well, and they're listening and they're like, we want to sell more to the enterprise, but also there's a lot of companies that are more early stage as well. If you were to give the weighting, would it be like early for small teams, 80% digital, 20% face to face? Enterprise or whatever, what would your kind of weighting be?
Yeah, I think directionally you're spot on, right? It tends to be very, very heavily digital at the low end of the market, and it becomes much more human to human interaction. The complexity at the high end with bigger buying teams, 10 or more people, right? A lot of systems integrations. They want to make sure that what they're bringing in is going to be connected into their workflow and into their business processes. And therefore, understanding how it fits, the governance that you have, the security that you have, the data that you're going to be working with, and how that connects to others, it just gets a lot more complex in these bigger environments. That requires that shift, like you said, right? Going from very, very digital to much more human. We've got to have dialogue about that, right? It's not a simple, go to this website page and it'll tell you all the answer to all your questions. It's more nuanced. It's more complicated. So Zoom meetings, face-to-face in the office meetings, at a conference where you can have an executive meeting, that's going to really tilt the balance in terms of the amount of interactions, and the amount of face-to-face goes north of 50% up there. Of course, every deal is different. Just to deal with all that complexity, all that nuance, all the different players that need to have their questions answered in that.
Yeah. And I mean, we can talk for hours on this, but then add on to the complexity of when you're a small team, it's just about the offering. But when you get to larger teams, there's risk mitigation and security issues, and there's way more at risk.
That's right.
You have a lot more to lose than to gain at the larger enterprise level. So having the especially the leadership team buy into your vision and know that you have all the risk mitigation systems put into place, that is so important as well, and that requires trust and time to build.
It's exactly right. In fact, as buying groups get bigger, one of the things I talk to my team about all the time, right, is the buying group gets bigger, there are more anti-buyers of part of the committee, right? People that can veto the deal. So typically what we find is that the deal is driven by the line of business people, sales in our situation, right? Because we're delivering value to the go-to-market team that includes marketing and the customer success team, but it's typically driven by the sales organization. So those are all lines of business that get value because they're all part of the go-to-market team from our offering. However, as you said, especially in bigger organizations, as you get into the deal, finance is going to be involved.
Yeah.
Security is going to be involved. IT and security is going to be involved.
Yep.
And so we need to address their needs during the process, because they can be behind the scenes vetoing a project. They can be killing a project.
Mhm.
And so we've invested greatly in both the technology to make sure that we address the scale, the security, the governance, and all the transparency around the AI that we deliver, all those things to address those concerns. But we have to arm our salespeople too with the tools and the discussions to be able to make sure that we're proactively addressing those needs. Because if you don't, lurking in the background, maybe not in every meeting that you're having,
Yep.
is one of these anti-buyers whose job it is to protect the organization. They're not trying to kill projects per se. They're trying to protect the organization. And as a result of that, they can kill a project. And if you don't meet their needs, your deal's at risk.
Yeah. So interesting. And yeah, like I said, we can talk for a long time on this. But so in terms of targeting, you talked a little bit about digital ads, talked a little bit about events as well. Maybe let's talk about those two. And you talked about a lot about thought leadership. So does LinkedIn play a huge role into your thought
Huge.
leadership investment as well? Maybe can you talk a little bit about that?
It is our single biggest channel. And we sort of approach it from two perspectives, right? We've got our brand presence on there, so SalesLoft, right? But LinkedIn over the years has changed their algorithms where brand channels like SalesLoft don't get as much traction as individuals do. And so what we work to do is our CEO has a long career in selling. So that's our target audience. So we have him as a thought leader out there. Our chief revenue officer, distinguished career, was at Cisco, was at Salesforce, right? We have him out there as a thought leader. One of our personas that we sell to is marketing. So I'm out there proactively talking about the issues that pertain to marketing and how marketing and sales need to come together in this motion and how, we can help that. But again, none of this is focused on our offering. It's more about trends, tips, ideas, being thought-provoking in terms of how you think about all of these motions and that. So we've spent a lot of time in activating our key personas that align to the personas that we're selling to as our voices of thought leadership. And then we have a program to have all of our employees and partners in that amplify those messages by posting it themselves, liking it, commenting on it, and so on. So it is a collective effort. I'm a big believer that you get a lot of people rowing in the same direction, you get leverage. Right. You or I doing it as just two individuals is one thing, but if we get 20 other people liking it, posting it, commenting on, now you get compounding effect. And it's sort of leverage the power of the internet, right? And that compounding effect. So that's core to our thought leadership. LinkedIn's our number one channel, very focused on the individual personas being the voice of our message to the personas that we're selling to, and then amplification, broadly. Route.
Yeah. The team listening knows how passionate I am about LinkedIn. We see exactly this. My personal LinkedIn at our organization gets 10 to 20x the number of impressions that our company page gets, and our company has been around for 15 years.
Yeah,
and that's just the way
that would have been different, right? But the
exactly.
algorithm means you need to adapt accordingly, right?
And you have to adapt accordingly, exactly. And so, yeah, we can definitely nerd out on that. Hot sauce question coming at you. How much are you guys spending, like, on a monthly basis on? Let's nail down one channel just on link.
I didn't even let you finish that one. I didn't even let you finish that one.
Oh my god! Okay, hey, that's a good sport. I'm gonna drink the rest of this for that. That was hilarious. As I was thinking through my thoughts, I just see you golfing. That's so funny. Okay, all right.
I will say this. I'm not going to disclose exactly how much, but it is I think people know, right, on digital channels, it is a constant game of refinement, right? It is, I describe it as you're always turning the knobs and the levers, right? It's a constant game of refinement of learn, adapt, right? And make sure that we're targeting those dollars based on success in that. So, I won't tell you the dollar amount, but I can tell you it's a constant game of refinement in order to optimize those dollars as best we can.
Absolutely. I think that clip's going to get a lot of views, by the way. Just me talking while you're gulping down your, that's so funny. No, but yeah, I knew you weren't going to be able to answer that, which is why this is part of the hot sauce question. But yeah, it's the game of marketing is just a game of attention. And it's just constantly changing from one platform to another platform to another platform. Who knows, maybe in 2-3 years or 5 years, LinkedIn won't be the number one tool for business networking. But for now, it is the ultimate channel. I've read somewhere about 60% of executives and decision makers spend at least an hour on LinkedIn per week. And another stat, 75% of decision makers view a personal profile, a thought leader like a CEO, views their content as more trustworthy than the business accounts marketing material, which is crazy, which makes so much sense, right? You or myself talking about something on LinkedIn, we're putting our personal name behind it. Whereas if we're just posting on a business channel, it's just kind of like we're kind of far removed from it. And if we change companies, that just removes that disappears.
Right.
But whatever we say personally stays with us.
But I think the type of content is critical in that as well, right? If every post from our CEO, our chief revenue officer, me as the chief marketing officer, is an advert for our product, you're not going to build the trust.
No.
Right. But if
No.
instead I'm sharing stats with you, you just shared some great stats, right? If I'm sharing best practices with you, if I'm sharing an insight on how to solve a specific problem that gets you thinking, whether you buy from us now or not, you may not even be in the market for our solution. Maybe a year from now you are, but we've built up the trust because these guys are thinking about things. They're actually adding value. They're smart in the way they think about this stuff. You built up trust, right? And that's how I think you achieve the stats that you shared. If every post that you put out there is a blatant advert for your product, I don't think those stats hold up.
No, yeah, your viewers will become numb to your content.
That's right.
It's like if every single time you hung out with a friend, they're always trying to sell you on a new thing that they're building, you're not going to be friends with this guy for a long time. But if you're hanging out, you're having fun, taking shots of soju, and you're just like, and you're sharing cool tips. Like, I'm learning a lot from you. You're learning a lot from me. Like, I think that is where real value, and I'll totally hang out with you in person.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to move on to one of the last segments of the show, just talking about future outlook and industry and predictions. So many trends in 2024, and you've been in marketing for many years, so you have the foresight that many of us don't have. Where do you see marketing, like trends like AI, ChatGPT, and like AI generated content, or whatever other trends? Like, where do you see marketing shaping up in the next 3 to 5 years? Let's say
AI. What's that? I haven't heard of that.
Oh yeah,
I'm kidding.
I can't think of anything.
Obviously, AI gets plastered all over everything, right? And certainly, we have sales tech that's got a lot of AI embedded into it. So look, it's easy. We go back to our LinkedIn, right? One of the ways you grab attention on LinkedIn is to say, sales development is dead. AI is going to replace salespeople, right? You make bold, provocative statements. They're hogwash. But you may get somebody's attention because it's controversial and you throw it out there, right? But at the end of the day, anybody that's relying on like Gen AI to create content today, I think is really risking your brand. Now, using Gen AI and other tools to help you come up with ideas and maybe get you started and give you a different perspective of way look at it as an input to your creative process and your content process, I think you're crazy not to. So I think it can be your best friend if you figure out how to harness it. Within marketing, I think that's especially true, right? We're always looking for ideas or what's a better way to say this, right? So using it for ideation and as a colleague sitting next to me that I can bounce ideas off of and get some brilliant. You're crazy if you're not doing that, right? I think the other thing on both the marketing and the sales side, right, is the more that you embed AI in the workflow of solving a specific problem, the more likely are you to get value from it. There are companies out there today that, because of all the hype in that, say, we just need AI. No, you don't. What you need is a solution to a business problem, and AI may be a component of that can give you a leg up. That's the way you should be looking at it,
But it's
right?
not the full solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, within our product, for example, we embed AI into the workflow. You talked earlier about helping salespeople prioritize what to work on, right? I need to send an email as a follow-up to somebody that was on our website. We can gen AI a suggested language with context about what they were looking at in that. Never would we suggest that you just hit send on that. It's ideation. It's part of the it's a partner to you, right? And so I think AI is a critical tool. I think people are figuring out how to actually use it. And I think the best way is, number one, it is not a replacement for anybody. It's a colleague, it's a partner, it's a co-pilot, whatever term you want to use that can help. And the best way to do it is to embed it in the workflow of your most essential use cases where it can help. Solving a specific business problem. Don't go try to invent uses for AI. Look at my workflow and my business processes and my problems that I need to solve. Can AI be embedded in there to help get that solved in a more efficient way?
Yeah.
That's how I think you get value from it. So I think 25 is going to be a big year of, Gartner always has their hype cycles, right?
Yeah.
I think AI is definitely is starting to go into this trough of disillusionment, as they call it, right? Where, all this hype and then, it doesn't deliver the way we expected. While people start to recalibrate to how to think about AI, it can and will deliver a lot of value, but only if thought about and utilized in the right way.
Absolutely. I love that. At the end of the day, it's just another tool. Like when the internet came out, it made it way faster to just type something in than to sift through 2,000 pages of a dictionary. It did increase the speed of many things, but at the end of the day, it's still humans thinking about it. Although, what do you think about AIs that are now thinking like humans and trained like humans? Do you think we'll get to this stage where AIs can think so similar to us that it can potentially be better than us in that perspective?
I would never say never, right? I'm not smart enough to know where this is going to be 10 years from now. But the one thing I've learned in being in the industry for many, many years is things don't happen as quick or as fast as you think they're going to. In hindsight, they happen quite quickly, but going forward, right? I mean, Tesla's been talking about the fully autonomous vehicle. It was supposed to have been here 5 years ago, right?
And AI has been around for 20-something years, hasn't it? Like, it's just
I'll give you a little story
stages.
that'll date myself, right? I went to college many, many, many years ago, right? Like 40 years ago, I was in college and I was a computer science grad. I had a class in artificial intelligence. So it has been around a long time. Trust me, right? It's been around a long time. And you're right. Now it's finding its footing in terms of applications. Who knows where it'll be 10 years from now? I think it'll get smarter and smarter and smarter, and we'll figure that out as we go. But I think today it is not a replacement for people. It is not a shiny object. It needs to be applied to specific workflows for specific business problems. It needs to be a companion, a partner, a value add to what people are doing. There's, go back to the enterprise sales that we talked about, right? Enterprise sales get complex. There's lots of buying committee members. They have complex questions and issues. And that there's no AI that's going to replace what a human can deliver in those face-to-face interactions that are digging deep, rolling up our sleeves, talking about your use cases, your current systems, your workflows, everything. There's no AI that's going to solve that anytime soon, right? 30 years from now? Who knows? But nothing on the horizon right now that's replacing a critical salesperson in that role.
At the end of the day, it's human to human. An AI is not going to be making a deal with my other AI. I don't think we'll ever let that kind of decision, let AI take over that power.
What AI can do, it can automate some of the mundane for you and free up more time for that human-to-human interaction, right? We talked earlier, right? It's a combination of digital interactions and human interactions, right? The more that we can free up salespeople's time to spend time, the more knowledge they are about the account, AI can help with that. The more tailored and focused they are on accounts that are in market right now for your AI can help with that. AI can help manage some of the mundane tasks that I have to do as a salesperson of documenting things and call scripts and all that type of stuff. free up time for that human interaction and make those sellers more productive, more effective at what they do, AI can be a companion to help them be able to do that and focus my energy on the things that are going to move the needle towards the outcomes that matter to our organization, which is more predictable, durable revenue.
Oh my God. I think we can talk for an hour on just this one point. But before we move on to the last, to one last thing, do you feel that there are more human interactions now with all this AI and AI is making things so much faster? So there's so much junk, so much more junk. I felt there's way more junk this year compared to last year in my email inbox, in my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is going crazy right now, and which means I need more human interaction to make my decisions. And I feel, and I've been in the industry for not too long, but I feel that there's a lot more people trying to win in the human to human interaction space. Do you find that there's more communities and more of that stuff, or it's just been the same as it has always been in the last 20 years?
I think you're on a good observation there. I think people crave human interaction. And I think post-COVID, that's especially acute, right?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that you're seeing is exactly what we were talking about, right? Which is AI applied incorrectly. If you peanut butter spread AI across everything and think that it's a volume play, that's going the wrong direction, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a higher volume of crap, right? That's not going to help anybody. But if AI is leveraged to help me have higher quality interactions, because I know what your interests are, I know the past conversations we've had, I can add value to the next set of questions that you have. I can prioritize my time accordingly in that. At the end of the day, all companies seek durable revenue growth, right? Consistent, long-term, predictable revenue growth. The more that I can apply AI to helping in that goal, the better off I'm at. If you take AI and just try to peanut butter spread and get a volume play out of it, I can generate a lot more things. You're actually going in the wrong direction. And so focusing it on quality over quantity, I think ultimately is the name of the game here. And I think AI has a great quality play that I don't think is talked about enough. I think it gets default turned into a quantity play, and I think that's where you run into trouble.
Yeah, that is such a good observation. Okay, so we're gonna do one last segment that I totally missed. We were supposed to do like a quick rapid fire thing. So I'll just ask you a couple of questions and then we'll wrap up with kind of talking about what's up coming for you and SalesLoft. Rapid fire, I'll ask you a couple of questions and you just answer really quick. So first question, what's your guilty pleasure TV show?
Boy, I switched through a lot of different ones. What my wife and I are watching now, I don't know why. Below Deck.
Below Deck.
You seen any of the Below Deck? There's Below Deck Mediterranean, Below Deck. Yeah, it's basically about the yachting industry, and I don't know why we're watching that, but we do. Yeah, so that would be
maybe a purchase of a yacht is upcoming. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, but I wish that'd be nice. I live in the mountains. There's no yachting around here.
Yeah. All right, two more. If you could pick any movie character, I like this one. Any movie character, real or fiction or nonfiction, as your mentor, who would it be?
As your mentor?
Any movie character.
Did you ever see the movie Remember the Titans? It's about a high school football back in the segregation games of Virginia and everything. They bring in a coach, Coach Boone, actually, and I live in Boone, North Carolina. Ironic as that is, right? Who had to deal with overcoming segregation, leading a mixed black and white group of student athletes, and that just incredible. That just popped into my head. Incredibly inspiring.
Coach
what he
Boone?
overcome, how he led the team, how he brought the community together.
Right.
There's a lot of good lessons you can learn from him overcoming in that situation. So
there's a overarching theme in this episode of just community and the power of human to human interact. I love that. I'm all about that as well, which is why the vibes are good in this episode. Last question. Who's the most difficult client or partner you've had to deal with in the last year?
We love all of our customers.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, you do.
They're all wonderful. It's sort of like all your kids are wonderful, right? All
They're
your
all,
customers,
you
all
love them.
your siblings, they're
There's
all
no
wonderful.
bad one. Yeah.
They're all wonderful. Just in their own unique way, they're all wonderful. We
Love that.
appreciate all of our customers.
Ding. Take a little screenshot of that and post that on LinkedIn. All right. Okay, we're gonna wrap up now. We have a few minutes left, thankfully. So usually I like to spend some time just to learn about like how you became you. How did Randy become Randy? Like you like growing up, like what was life like for you growing up? Did you, I don't know, like you learn a lot from your like, did you have mentors that taught you along the way, like an uncle, or did you learn from a lot from your parents? Like, how did you become who you are today?
Yeah, I'm the middle of three boys. Had wonderful, wonderful parents. Instilled a work ethic. Was very big into sports.
Really?
And so I think that brought out a competitiveness, resiliency, a sort of motivation, right? Because if you want to be good at sports, you've got to have self-motivation and drive in that. I actually had a job in my teens, so became sort of self-sufficient sort of financially in terms of being able to, buy some things on my own that I wanted, right? I wasn't dependent on my parents and that. So I think that early upbringing and those things sort of crafted a lot of it. I'm sort of wired and really believe if you do a great job, you'll get recognized. I'm not big into tooting my own horn and saying, hey, look what I did. I'm more about you do the right thing, you do a good job, it gets recognized. And that's proven to be the case over the years. I will say as I've gotten more into leadership, that thing that I think was a strength as an individual contributor can be a negative to a degree with a team because I want my team to be recognized. And I'm not wired to promote what I did, but I need to work on and continue to make sure I promote my team and make sure that they get recognized. So that's been a growth area, certainly over the years. But so that's sort of how and then, like I said, from a career perspective, started off a little more technical, got into the business side. I think that blend of the science and the art, computer science is very analytical in nature, very science driven. And then obviously doing marketing for years gave a nice blend of skills in that, which I believe today in a modern marketer, you cannot be extreme one or the other. You cannot be all science with no art, or all art with no science. You've got to be a blend of both.
Did you have like a mentor, especially early when you switched from more of the technical side to the marketing side? Did you have mentors along the way that you really looked up to that you kind of met with regularly, like any formal or informal mentorship?
Not formal, but I was very fortunate to work with a couple of CEOs. One, his name was Doug Colbeth, who I worked with twice, who believed in me, right? Gave me opportunities and, little tidbits here and there that were really important I was fortunate to be young and be an executive. And so learning those ropes and understanding all that was important. And he was great in both giving me the opportunity as well as telling me where the landmines were and to avoid stepping in them.
Yeah, just finding that person that believed in you, that is at least 10 years older than you, so you can follow behind that footsteps.
Exactly
is so
right.
important. I've seen that happen many times. Randy, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. My light is not on. Now it's on. It's been so much fun. I'm probably gonna have a really good sleep tonight. So thank you for that. And let's definitely we'll have to get you back for round 2. Maybe we'll talk about LinkedIn next time, as we're both pretty passionate about that. But before we jump out, is there anything that you're working on personally or at SalesLoft that you want to shout out or talk about so that we can kind of keep in the loop?
First of all, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I will just say SalesLoft is at a fascinating time, right? We full platform provider now, sort of repositioning the company around the chief revenue officer, RevOps value prop, moving up market into these enterprises. So we're at a very interesting spot where we are in a fortunate positioning of helping some of the world's most demanding and interesting companies, their go-to-market teams, increase sort of how they get to durable revenue growth. And it's a fun time to be in as every company is trying to get to very predictable, profitable revenue growth.
Absolutely. And do you guys host any big events yourself, or you usually just tag along to other events? Like any big things coming up?
We do go to some industry events. Like there's a Gartner Chief Sales Officer event that'll be coming up in the late spring of next year. We also do our own Sales Love on Tour events. That's why I mentioned earlier that I was in Atlanta or in Austin, in London, and stuff like that. That was our own event. So a combination of both.
Cool. Well, Randy, appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And until next time, yeah, we'll definitely have to catch up at some point somewhere around the world, because it looks like you travel quite a bit. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Simon. It's been a pleasure.